Hello everybody and welcome back to the FPL Phillips YouTube channel and to another video ahead of Game Week 11. This time it's my early thoughts and the best wildcard team I think you should be targeting if you've got the chip. And basically it just includes all the players I think that look cool at the moment in FPL that you should be owning. And one thing that I think is going to be really useful for you guys in today's video that you should stay tuned for is the forward analysis later in the video, because I'm going to be providing all the receipts, all the evidence as to why you should go for this sort of team structure, why you should be shifting towards it, and we're going to be comparing, crucially, some of the forwards. So I'll timestamp that. If you want to just skip to it and you're not really bothered about the rest of the team, feel free, but I would appreciate it if you want to watch the video all the way through. So yeah, we'll get into it anyway. I hope you like the task I'm doing Movember in full force. Make sure you're donating to any of your mates who are doing it. But yeah, let's get into things and kick things off with the goalkeeper, who is going to be Robert Sanchez, I think, this week. And crucially, as Fabianski does now appear to be firmly first choice for West Ham, as he can rotate with Sanchez through a few of the tougher Chelsea fixtures that are coming up next, namely Arsenal in Game Week 11 is the one where I'd want to start Fabianski against Everton at home, and then from there on out Sanchez looks a pretty decent option at 4.7 million. So I like the look of him. Sells, unfortunately, with the Forest fixture run is not really an option from now on. We'll talk about Chris Wood later on, but the fixtures for Forest just don't look good from here on out, especially Game Week 12 onwards. Their good fixture run has firmly come to an end, it must be said. So I think Sanchez is the next best option. Did look at Andre Onana as well. There are a few other options here. There's a lot of uncertainty with Manchester United, with Ruben Amorim obviously coming in over the international break that we've got coming up ahead. But I've decided to take a little bit of a risk and invest in that Manchester United side with, I think, who will be the most popular asset, Diogo Dalot. In this three at the back system with the wing backs, I think Dalot could be a player that fully thrives, and that is why he has made it into this defence. And the overall structure with the backline at the moment, and the one that I presented last week had the same, just a few different players. It's just go cheap. It's just use the funds up front and in midfield instead to get those key premiums in, and just go cheap at the back. I don't think Trent's providing much value. Vardiol's been okay, but the Man City fixtures don't look good. I'm not sure those attacking returns will stay consistent. Van Dijk's probably looked the best expensive defender at Liverpool. The Arsenal defenders aren't really providing the value either. So I'm just saying go for some cheap attacking fullbacks from teams like this. There were more options I could have gone for as well. I like the look of Kirkes at Brighton, who picked up 2 assists in Game Week 10. But I've gone for Aït-Nouri, Dalot, Robinson, and then Lewis Hall, who you can see on screen. So maybe some more exciting picks, and then just whichever 4.0 mil defender you want to go for. Van der Beek maybe is one to be wary of, actually, just due to the fact that Rico Henry might be back. But I couldn't really be bothered to research who's the best 4.0 million defender. Just go with whoever you want. But Aït-Nouri is one that does excite me. Yellow cards are something to watch out for with him. He is 1 away from suspension. If you're worried about that, then you could always go with Semedo, whose data does also look good. If you want a bit more of a comparison with that, then you can look at last week's video. But Aït-Nouri looks fantastic for the money. Wolves have some great fixtures coming up next, as we know. I think he'd be definitely the first defender almost in my wildcard draft if I had it this week. And then Diogo Dalot, as mentioned. So all these defenders have pretty good fixtures, and you're able to cover pretty much. You're going to have to start one of Dalot or Hall when they have 2 tough fixtures, but other than that, it looks very nice. Dalot would be in here for Leicester, Ipswich and Everton, so it's looking very good for Manchester United over that fixture run. The new manager coming in will be looking to hit the ground running. As I said, Dalot getting forward on that right hand side could be a key part of that. That is where he thrives. Obviously didn't against West Ham and decided to blast it over the crossbar, but in general I do rate him as an attacking player. He's much better going forward than he is defensively from my point of view, and I think he'll do well. So it's going to be someone you're going to see talked about, I think, a lot over the next 2 weeks as maybe a bit of a risk to jump on early. But from my experience in FPL, those are the most fun picks, where you jump on a player early, they do really well, and then they become a popular and consistent asset afterwards, whilst you've already made some gain from them over those first few game weeks. So yeah, Dalot is in there for that kind of style of pick. Robinson, a bit more of a solid nailed-on defender. Fulham, the final team to play in Game Week 10, so I haven't seen their game yet. But from what I've seen so far from Fulham this season, over the first 9 games that they've played, they've really impressed me, and he would be my nailed-on pick to go for here. Now, you could go for Anderson, you could go for another pick from Fulham, But in my view, Robinson does have that little bit more attacking threat and assist threat. He's going to pick up the assist maybe once every 10 games or something, but it could still result in a pretty sweet haul if Fulham do pick up a clean sheet 1 week. And they are one of the best teams for expected goals conceded data so far this season. And then finally, Lewis Hall, another one of the more spicy attacking picks that I've gone for. He does have a lot better attacking data than Livramento has had, and Hall has played, next to 90 minutes the last 6 or 7 game weeks, I think it is now. So at least 5 weeks he's been in the side, and he's been playing really, really well. I think he impressed me a lot against Arsenal. Livramento is the more solid choice, I would say, for minutes. Newcastle fans might be able to help me out there a bit more. But if you're investing in a Newcastle defender, I like the look of Lewis Hall. He's only 4.3 million. Now, budget's not an issue with this team. I actually had a fair bit of funds left over, but Hall is also 4.3 million. So if you're looking for a defender and you want one on the cheap side, maybe worth a shout. So I said some honourable mentions in the form of Kirkes. I think Lewis Dunk looks like he could be good. Colwill. There are other players as well that look good in that price bracket. But I think you could even have 5 of them and rotate more. Van der Berg was just in as a 4.0 because I think that's the structure most will have. But you could easily use those funds if you've got them left to upgrade and have a 5th defender. And then you'd be able to cover that game week where Dalot plays Arsenal and Hall plays Liverpool, bench those 2 and actually start that 5th defensive pick. So that's the structure I like the look of at the moment. Hard to navigate to with transfers, but if I had the wildcard, that would be what the defence would look like with the 5th defender in. In midfield then, into we go. Salah, Palmer, Saka obviously are in here. The 3 big premiums, they're going to be in every wildcard draft that you see presented this week, basically. Not the easiest set of fixtures coming up. Palmer and Saka obviously playing each other next time out in game week 11. But these guys are the kind of consistent assets. I know Palmer's just blanked, as I've said, that as I'm recording this video, but I still rate him. Salah is inevitable. Saka looks like a really, really good option to be bringing in. He'll come back. He'll find his own. I think he was just really not at the races in that game against Newcastle. But these 3 would be, the first 3 names in my midfield on any wildcard draft. And then the last 2 places are where it's up for grabs. In Bomo, you definitely hang on to for the next 3, I think. Bournemouth, Everton and Leicester are the next 3 games up for Brentford, so he'd 100% be in here for those ones. It's just afterwards when you start to consider maybe shifting him out, maybe even adding in someone like a Heung-min Son on top of Salah, Palmer and Saka if the funds allow it. And then Morgan Rogers, who continues to actually be pretty good. He picked up another attacking return in game week 10 against Spurs, despite Villa being hit back pretty heavily, I should say. But Rogers would be very much the 8th attacker in this side. He's going to be benched for that game against Liverpool. He's going to be benched for that game against Chelsea. And that's because we have a very stellar front 3 coming in. And the forward line, similarly to the defence, there are a lot of options you could go for in, again, quite a narrow price range. The 3 I've elected to go for are Alexander Isak, Matheus Cunha, and then Wissa at Brentford. So Isak, one who's come back from injury relatively recently, picked up an attacking return from that Gordon cross in game week 10 and a very nice goal indeed. Hoping he can find some form now with Newcastle having those nice fixtures over the next 3 fixtures in particular. I don't think Forest is necessarily a green fixture away from home, but West Ham and Crystal Palace, those 2 games I really do like the look of for Newcastle. Cunha, I think, is a very, very consistent option. We'll have a look at the table in a minute and delve into the stats more in depth. But one thing to consider with him is that a lot of his expected goal involvement numbers come from assist threats. So I know it's only a 1 point difference for a 3 for an assist, 4 for a goal from a forward, but it does affect bonus points and things like that. And we're not 100% certain if he's on penalties or not. And then Wissa, finally, again, kind of one who I'm not seeing too many other transfers that are going to need to be made for this team. You'd hold on for these next 3 game weeks. He looked great. Pending what happens, with the next few weeks, I would have him in this team. And then finally, we'll compare them. So we'll have a look at these 3 in the context of the other forward options that I think are viable in FPL at the moment. And we've got Haaland in here for a comparison. So they're actually ordered by expected FPL points per 90. That second column in from the right. And then I've also got their actual FPL points per 90 output over the last 5 game weeks, all this data is from next to it. So you can see from there, you know, their expected assists, their expected goals, what they should be getting, and then their actual outputs. Someone like a Haaland, for example, although he's blanked every game for however it feels like now, he's actually got an expected FPL points per 90 of 5.77. So his output's terrible, but he should be getting a little bit more, it seems. Now, Jimenez is the top player for expected FPL points per 90, and I've also got some other columns in here that I think you guys might find useful. So I've got the fixture ranking, attacking difficulty, that's taken from fantasyfootballfix.com, from game week 11 through to game week 19. I've also got the average minutes that these guys have played so far this season, other than Visser, just due to the injuries and the return from injuries. I've actually used his average minutes from last season, which is still the worst of the bunch on 75. And then penalties. We've got a few icons here, so a tick for players who are almost certainly on pens or will be the overwhelming majority of the time. Someone like a Chris Wood, we now know now is on pens. Very, very slim chance. Someone like a Morgan Gibbs-White takes one. Cunha, again, if Sarabia is on the pitch, then he might take it. But Cunha, the majority of the time, is going to be on them. Jimenez is a question mark because Andreas missed that last one, and we've not seen Jimenez take one since, I don't believe. So he's a question mark, but could be a tick. And then Welbeck is a clock because he's technically on a timer until João Pedro returns to the team, if João Pedro returns to the team, and even then he maybe becomes a question mark, as does he now have penalty rights over someone like a João Pedro. So there are some firm crosses as well, as you've seen there, but just for clarification, if you're just looking at the table and using it yourself, those are what those icons mean. So you're just looking for a green row here, basically, one who covers all your bases, and Matheus Cunha down there, first for fixture difficulty, plays a solid amount of minutes per game. His non-penalty expected goal involvements do look good, and he should have penalties, as I mentioned. I did say that a lot of that expected goal involvement does come from assist threat. That is one thing to consider as a caveat, but still a very solid expected FPL points per 90, and he would be in my wildcard team if I was playing the chip this week. He'd be the first one in, I'd say. Isak's fixtures, not overwhelmingly the best. 7th Newcastle rank over that period of the next 9 game weeks. Plays 90 minutes every week though, and his non-penalty expected goal involvements is second only to Jimenez. So it does look very, very good indeed at 0.95. Actually, sorry, tell a lie. Haaland is on 0.97. He just seems to be missing all his big chances. So yeah, Isak is the one who made the cut from this, and then Visser. Brentford not having the best of fixtures overall. They're down in 14th. But I should say that, when I mentioned before, the 3 fixtures over the next 3 look very nice. Afterwards, I would maybe consider selling and shifting to another forward. So Wood and Haaland are kind of not in here just due to fixtures, and Haaland, in his case, just stinking up the gaff. He's been pretty terrible, as I think we all know. Solanke, just overall, still isn't doing it in terms of underlying numbers for me. I know he scored 16 points in game week 10, and people will be now backtracking and maybe thinking about, oh, do I need to have Solanke in my team now? He's got Ipswich or whoever he's playing up next. I don't think so. Havertz, kind of the same boat, just a bit of a mediocre asset, is more expensive as well. Same kind of boat with Jackson too, who I do think is more of a better asset. It's worth noticing that Chelsea and Spurs rank 3rd and 2nd respectively for the fixtures. They're the 2 teams behind Wolves over the next period. So in general, this is why I would not go for Haaland. This is why I think the funds are much, much better spent on going heavy in your midfield, investing maybe in like having a full back 5, as we've discussed earlier in the video, upgrading Rodgers later on, upgrading Mbomo, maybe even to that 4th premium in midfield in the form of a Son or up to a Bruno. I know it's not too much of a price difference now, but having the funds to get in that Bruno, I just think it is worth it. And personally, there are a few adjustments you can make to the side, but overall, this is my justification for why you shouldn't go Haaland, you should go Salah, and yeah, if you've got free transfers this week, you can make the move and try and shift towards some kind of team structure like this, because I think it will become the meta and the more optimal strategy going forward over the next couple of game weeks. But it's football. We know how fast things can change, especially in the Premier League, you know, the best league in the world, the one where things can change in a heartbeat, and, you know, the 3 best teams on paper concede the first 3 goals of an FPL game week. So yeah, that's what we love about it. Everything can change so fast. For now, this is what I think is going to be best, and I'm pretty confident in it remaining so for at least the next 5 or 6 game weeks. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video and find it useful. Feel free to screenshot the graphic, share it, whatever. Just tag me at FPL Phillips if you want to share it over on Twitter, etc, etc. But yeah, other than that, I'll see you in a future video where hopefully I can catch you there. Goodbye.